But as I was doing like a bit of research for today, I love your before and after photo that you've got on your Facebook page. I think you posted it like on a couple of other places. And I mean, that's how I know you, right? Like with your before photo, that's how we met. Like when we were studying at what's it called again now? RADA or something?
RCS. It's the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland now because we're fancy.
It's very fancy. I still call it the RSAND because
that's what it is. Why change the name?
I know. Why change the name? I was like, the Royal College of what? So, when we were studying together at the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland, sounds super fancy. But, I mean, that's how I met you. So, like, I was so excited for you when I saw Bracken Burns posting about her journey and doing some training with you. How did your training journey begin, though? Like, why did you decide to get into, like, you made quite a big step to get into fitness.
Yeah, it was something I'd always dabbled in. I'd always I remember the very, very first time, it was in the first year at the RCS. I was also working with a music producer at the time who I was writing songs with while doing all my theatre work. And he basically was like, if you want to make it, you need to look better. So it was very aesthetic. Like there's a lot of red flags with this man throughout my career. That could be a whole other podcast of who to avoid in the music industry. But that's kind of where I was like, oh God, right, okay, I need to get to the gym. So I remember chatting to one of our dance coaches and being like, I'm going to go to the gym. Will that be okay? And I remember them saying, yeah, but just watch because it might like affect your flexibility if you like get too muscly and stuff. So I wouldn't go too hard. And looking back now, I'm just like, that's the most awful advice ever. But from a teacher I love still to this day. So it was very strange advice. But I remember
we've all had that sort of advice though. My singing teacher, like, because when I was at the RSMD, I did CrossFit down at the CrossFit box in Glasgow. And I got told by a number of people, no, don't do that. That's very bad for you. CrossFit's very bad for you. It's so bad. You just get upper body tension just all up here. It's just with all that heavy lifting. Shouldn't do it. Yeah. You'll just be like.
You're going to get big traps and a big, huge steak neck and you're going to be like, oh, hench.
Exactly.
Like, sure. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, I remember that's when I kind of got my first PT. But I went on and off it constantly. And it was just, I think it's about finding the right person because until I finally did actually start making progress and getting somewhere, it was finding that coach that actually explained stuff to me. And because usually it was like, hey, come for a session, see you for an hour, bye, see you next week. And that was it. So I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing outside. I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing, like movement wise outside of that, what I was supposed to do with my food. I was again just thinking eat as little as possible and move as much as you can, and that's gonna work. And then
gonna burn loads of calories then.
Yeah. And ultimately you're just then gonna binge on stuff and then getting the pure fear with food and scared to go out with friends and over at food preoccupation like crazy and over analyzing everything you're doing. So it was actually when I met Matt from NFA, he was gonna online coach me, which worked for me because I know I like training. I like being in the gym, and I don't like letting other people down. So I knew if he was checking in with me every week, one, it was somewhere I liked being, and two, I never wanted to tell him that I wasn't doing my sessions. So it worked for I know my behaviors. So I was working with myself. So he was just the one that explained, the energy outputs, the energy you have to take in with the food that you need to consume, how your body actually exerts energy and all, I've said this to you before, like if you literally woke up in the morning and lay down and didn't move all day, on average, people burn anywhere, depending on your size, from 1,200 calories to 2,000 from just your body working.
Yeah.
So, but I always thought, the exercise calories and the walking calories were the only ones you were burning. So I was like, how can I eat food? Because I'm only burning 800 calories a day. So it was just finally getting someone to actually teach me and get that knowledge and have that power and understand how to balance it and how to make it work with me and not against me. And I was also, it was through lockdown. Like, again, I'd only been with him a month and then lockdown hit. And like my whole way of making money disappeared. I'd left a job earlier that year of PAYE to go full time as a musician.
Oh,
So
wow.
I had no income from a PAYE job. So I didn't get that whole 80% of the wage that everyone got. And I didn't have a year worth of accounts for my self-employed. So the self-employed people would give me no money. So I literally had nothing but my savings. And again, we didn't know how long this was going to last. But for me at the time, I went, you have always used time as an excuse to not, get in shape, to not eat well. And now you have nothing but time. So I will use that money in my savings to pay this guy every month because that's how important it is to me to do this now.
Yeah.
Um, it was, again, like I spoke about earlier, but breaking up with a guy I've been with for 7 years. Mentally, I kind of worked to myself the next 3 months just to get myself me again. And
Yeah.
now I was like, now it's time to get physically fit as well. Cause something I always wanted to do. Again, he was always, it's outside factors, don't get too big, don't get too muscly, don't lose your curves. I won't love you anymore if you don't look like this, and just all that. But that came from a place of their insecurities
Yeah.
because they weren't in shape and they were scared that, well, you see that all now. So yeah, I basically was just like, this is my time. So I was like, let's just do this and stick to it. So during lockdown, we got into a routine. Me and my flatmate, we got up every morning, we trained together, then we made breakfast, then we went a walk, and then we chilled the rest of the day doing whatever activities. Sometimes we learned how to bake something or cook something, or we learned a new skill, or we dug out our garden. We just kept ourselves busy. Because we had to, otherwise I would have went insane. I would have been bouncing off the walls and been very depressed. Uh,
Absolutely.
but I think people kind of went two ways in lockdown. You either went the way where it was, we've got nothing to do but eat and drink and just get through this. And other folk went, right, this is gifted time. This is time we literally, we will never get this again in our lives.
Yeah.
And we also don't know what's going to happen in the world. We were also unsure of, is the world even going to be here? Like,
Yeah, it's true though, wasn't it?
yeah, it was totally the fear of the unknown. So I was like, well, might as well make my use of it. I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And again, when I finally understood how to do it, I was like, oh my goodness, so many people would benefit from knowing this, from knowing the truth, knowing how to actually do it without hurting themselves and harming themselves and shaming themselves and ruining their relationship with themselves. And
Yeah.
and that's when I was like, right, I wanna do my degree. I want to become a PT, and I'm gonna work really hard to do that and help others. And there is definitely a line between, when I was performing on stage and writing songs, it was all about making people feel seen and connecting with them through my experiences, and then they could feel it through theirs. And
Yeah.
that was the joy and gratitude of the job, because anytime you're in a room watching me on stage, they felt seen, they felt present, they felt needed, and they felt like happy and elated. They felt connected. And it's similar to fitness, because again, I'm making people feel more confident in themselves and happy in themselves and how to look after themselves and just being healthier, happier humans. And that's just very, very similar kind of outcomes from both jobs. And I think that's why I never thought I'd do anything else but performing. I always had side jobs just to make some money, just to get by. And then I go out on tour again, or go out do a singing job, and I go do it. And now that I'm doing this, I'm actually like, this makes me really, really happy, and equally as happy as singing. And
Yeah.
I never thought I'd find something like that. So it's a plus from lockdown, eh?
The same as you, I decided, this is gifted time. I'm going to start doing it. And I love it. I know it's been, a horrible situation for a lot of
Oh,
people, but I think it's definitely, not for everybody. It definitely wasn't for me. So before you started all this, because when you were studying, musical theater, were you a dancer before you started at the RSAMD? So did you have like a already sort of a fitness background?
no. I
No.
still to this day don't know how I got into that course with my dance skills. I must have been a hell of a singer and actress, because my dancing was non existent. I threw myself about a room and jiggied, and I was like, meh. Yeah, I'd never danced in my life. I got pulled out of ballet lessons when I was 4 years old because I was standing just stamping my foot and being like, they're like, point your toe. And I'm like, no, I want to be outside playing football in the mud with the boys. So I never danced. But that was a huge journey, like learning how to dance and learning how to like be connected in your body and just being aware of your body really, and
Yeah.
to like the stamina that requires. We did
Mm-hmm.
obviously body condition every Monday.
Yeah.
And as much as we all like, I still will shout perseverance now and then just for the banter. And what was the other one? She was, I don't know,
NRG.
NRG.
Yeah. Get
Yes,
it.
good old Lynn. She was amazing. Um, but I still remember, again, I thought I couldn't be a dancer, so I don't have the body of a dancer. I'm not a
Mm-hmm.
ballerina, so I can't be a dancer. But going through all those classes and learning and having all the different styles come in and learn and different ones, I was like, oh, actually, I love contemporary and I actually really love jazz. I never fell in love with ballet. I just pushed through it, was what it was. But
Mm-hmm.
I'll still remember in third year the time one of our external teachers who came in just for a workshop actually pulled me to the front and asked me to do the dance to show everyone else how to do it. She was like, "There's a dancer, come forward." And I was like, "She just called me a dancer. Am I a dancer?" And I wrote it in my RPG that night. I think it made it to my final end of year RPG referral thing we have to do, because I was like, I became a dancer this year because someone told me. Um,
I
but
love
really,
it.
you're a dancer. If you can dance, if you're dancing, you're a dancer. You know,
Of
the same as
course.
like, I'll always say people are like, "Oh, I just wish I would love to be able to sing," and I'm like, anyone can sing. It's a muscle. You just have to like learn how to train it. Some people have
Absolutely.
not saying you're going to be Beyonce, but you can sing. If you decide that you want to sing, you can sing, and you can work with people. It's the same as people say, you know, I'll never be fit. I'll never be like, I'll never look like you. And I'm like, well, you could if you want it. If you want it, you can do anything you want. It's just about finding the right help and finding the right people
Yeah.
and, you know, getting the right advice.
I was just thinking that, and getting the right advice, because I think there's just so much shit out there, and I think especially in our industry, and especially in musical theater, you know, when you're and in just in music in general, where as you're saying, I mean, it's just such bullshit that people say that it's so based on your the way you look in your body and things like that. Although I missed out on roles because I didn't fit the costume, you know, I was like going up for cover something or other, and then, you know, you get down to the finals and you're like, okay, well, that person fit the costume and you didn't. So, but that had not, you know, it could have been either way. It could have,
Yeah.
you know, and I think this is a lot of it. I always misconstrued it as being I wasn't thin enough. And actually, when I now think about it, I'm like, it could have been either way. It could just like have not have been big enough, or couldn't have not
Yep.
been tall enough. And I think it's so much placed on your, I think a big journey about the whole fitness thing is really finding, what do you actually want to do? What are you prepared to do? And do you really want to look like, are you prepared to put in the work to look like the way you think you want to look? Because
Yep.
actually when it comes down to it, it's, you know, looking like a bodybuilder takes a shitload of work. You know, they're
Yeah.
not just like, they don't just like come out of the womb like looking like bodybuilders, you know.
Yeah. 100%.
I think it's also about a journey.
Oh, 100%. Like I think most people from a journey, they think what they want is to be a smaller person. That is usually what people come to me being like, I want to be smaller. I want to be X shape or X size or X on the scales. And that never ends up being their final destination. And half the
Mm-hmm.
time, what you actually get in the process of learning about yourself and the confidence you find in yourself and the belief in yourself, that's the always the golden that people get from it. If like I've got a few performer clients like yourself, and one of them's just been seen for the first time for a West End role, and that she was like, I would never have even went to that audition a few years ago because I would have been like, I don't deserve to be here. I won't be what they want. What's the point of me even going? I'm just going to embarrass myself.
Yeah.
And now she's doing self tapes and she's feeling so confident in her self tapes, and she's wearing clothes and things she feels comfortable in. She did a self tape in a crop top, and she's, you know, it's not like you have to be a size 6 or a size 8 to be in a crop top. You just, if you have that confidence, people are far more likely to be intrigued in you and be like, being like, oh cool, look at that girl, she would shine on stage. Because I think we always think that all roles have to be like these fit, really great looking people, but really the industry's moving and they want all shapes and sizes. They want, you know, they're becoming they've become much more better with like the different ethnicities and ages of everyone as well.
Yeah.
And they're also doing it with shape. It's not about always being you know, you used to get the Disney cruises and you're like, you can only apply if you're between this and this weight and this height.
Yeah.
We're moving so far away from that. And really, it's just like, if you believe in yourself, you're going to attract that energy if you have that confidence. And that was probably the biggest thing I felt in myself. And I see in a lot of clients, whether it is, you know, so many people go for job interviews that they didn't think they'd go for, but now they have the confidence to.
Yeah.
They do things like, you know, if it is going out on dates and actually finding someone they're like, find the love of their life and they're now really happy, or the opposite way, they actually leave someone because they're like, hey, I'm worth so much more than this, and you don't add to my life.
Yeah.
And it works so many ways. You end up making your life so much better just because you've actually worked on yourself.
Yeah.
And it's not just about exercising, it's about how you speak to yourself. People are so bad for negative self-talk, and as we're like, just to wind back to there, like saying, oh, I can't look like that, I won't look like that, and I can't do that. It's like, well, if you tell yourself you can't, of course you won't. It's like saying, I'll never get that part, or I'll never be a singer. Like, if you believe that, then what are you even doing here? You need to have that belief in yourself and have that want and that drive. And it comes back to just, you know, what are your goals? Like actually physically writing them down. And why do you want this? What's your why? Why is it so important to you?
Yeah.
And if you can dig deep enough and get like that good emotional why, you will naturally progress away. So you'll naturally fall away from it. Sometimes we're never going to be 10 out of 10 weeks, 100% on it. Like, it doesn't exist. It's not possible. Perfection isn't there, but there will be times where you proper fall away. And that's when you just come back in with your why. Why is this important to you? And if you can dig deep enough to get something that you know will curb you back in every time, you're never going to lose that. And it's just life goes up and down. And if you can always have that reason to bring yourself back in, you will succeed. Because the only way you can properly fail is if you give up. And that can so often comes from not believing in yourself, not having confidence. So
no, I think I totally agree with you. I think that especially with you, like you're saying about the, you know, performers not having the confidence in order to go up for something. I think there's something really confidence building in investing, even if it's not every single day for an hour that, you know, or even 5 days a week, like say even 3 days a week that someone chooses to work out, and just spending, even if it's like not necessarily lifting weights, but just spending 1 hour 3 times a week, focusing on themselves and moving and feeling good about themselves. And I love that you said about your performers that it gave her the confidence to go up for a West End role. There's nothing that says that someone shouldn't go up for that role, apart from, as you're saying, your own self-belief and your own, you know, your own kind of,
you're physically being invited. Someone's saying come, and you're like, oh no, but I'm not worthy. It's like they're literally saying you are. So, and it's the same, like if you go into a room, even if you've, you know, if it's an open audition, if you go into a room already apologizing for yourself because you feel self-conscious about yourself, then straight away that's you probably lost that role, because they're thinking you're going to walk on that stage and have the exact same demeanor. You need to go in being like, boom, this is me. Wherever you are in your life, like, you're always worthy. You can change here and there. Anything takes time, but who you are right now is awesome. So you walk in with that and you're just like, boom, here I am. This is me. This is what I do. This is my talents. You're welcome. See you later. Hear from you soon. You know?
I love it. I love it. See you later. But I think that's fantastic, because I agree. But that's the X factor, right? That's why there's like the show called the X Factor. It's this like unexplainable energy, which is not only confidence, but it's also about, you know, the presentation, as you're saying, connecting with the audience. It's about all these things is something that we can also develop. It's not something that you've just born with, you know, it's something that you develop over time, and about going, okay, I will, as long as I do my best. You know, you were saying with your, were you still singing then, like after you started your fitness journey? Because you were saying that you started sort of like, and then lockdown happened.
Yeah, so I mean, previous to that, I'd been in and out the gym. So there was times where I did lose a good chunk of weight, then I'd put it all back on, because I get to a place where I'm like, oh, cool, this is great. And then I'd just stop working out because I'm like, job done. I don't need to do this anymore.
I know that. I'm going to watch my food right now. And then I got to it. Oh, I'm fine now.
Yeah, great. Stunning. This is it. Don't need to maintain. What? I'm going to go order Papa John's and then follow up with an ice cream. Oh, maybe order some sides, all for myself. Do it twice a week. Oh, hang on, I've put on weight again. What? Oh no, I'm back at the start. I think it's yeah, like I definitely saw the change in the style of costumes that I was wearing on stage.
Yeah.
Because when I started out, oh my God, I would have a mental breakdown every time before going out because I'd have an idea in my head what I wanted to look like. I'd try on the clothes, put them on in my bedroom, and I'm like, I look horrendous. Oh my God, this is not great. And then you'd be like, screw it, wear the goddamn clothes. Then you'd go to the gig, you'd have a great time, it'd be awesome. Then you'd see the photos after people have captured of you when, you know, I'm throwing myself about the stage, dancing and kicking and doing all this stuff. And I'm like, wow, is that what I look like? And obviously they're catching you at the worst positions when you're breathing out and like curled over, but you still analyze everything of your body
Yeah.
because we're like that. We're awful to ourselves, and we think we need to look pristine and have the ideal version of ourselves all the time. But I definitely saw an evolution of, you know, wearing baggier stuff and just more covered up to by the end of when I was feeling a lot better in myself. Even when I wasn't at my smallest, I was just comfortable in myself.
Yeah.
And I was going on stage with like crop tops and shorts on and these big, huge swishy coats and or like these brassiere things with loads of jewels on it and just being like, this is cool. And not at any point in any review was I ever commented on my body. It was always this girl's energy, this girl's stage presence, this girl's confidence, this girl's vocals. It's like it's a show. It's not just a gig. Like they're, you know, it was all of that, and that was something that kind of sunk in and being like, oh, it's just me that cares about how I think I should look because I've decided I should look this way, but no one else knows that and no one else thinks that.
Yeah.
So why am I doing it to myself? And it's perfectly okay to have aesthetic goals and want to look a certain way, but doesn't mean you need to stop doing what you're doing in that moment until you get there, until you feel like you're in that body, then you deserve to go do what you're doing. Like you can still do it all while you work on yourself. And some, you know, for some people, it's not even about getting smaller. It's just about getting fitter and being able to jump about a stage for an hour and stop coming off and being like, I am like done for 2 days. I need to go lie down and sleep for a few days. And it's that stamina level as well. Like when we were doing, you know, at the RCS, we were doing like six show weeks and stuff. Like I remember doing Little Shop. I got chucked on all the high lines. I was one of the Vanettes, and I got chucked on the high line because Hayley'd lost her voice, and we were switching each song between who was in the mid or the high. So I had all this huge, powerful high singing. And at this point, I was going to the gym, and I didn't get sick once. I didn't lose my voice once. All through the rehearsals, I am one of those singers that I find now and then I'd back off, but most of the time I'm going all out because I want to see how it feels and build up that stamina.
Yeah.
And I made it through that full show without ever losing a voice, without feeling absolutely gassed by the end of the show, and had a really successful season with that.
Awesome.
And I think that was down to I was at the gym at that point, and I was
Yeah.
that was one of the times I was at the gym before I fell away again, and it really really helped. So
did you notice a difference in your stamina levels then between between working out and then not working out? Did you notice, you know, because obviously at the RSMD there were like massive, or RCS, there was like huge, you know, they're massive days. We were in there for a really long time and like big dance classes and obviously all the rehearsals and stuff like that. Did you notice a big difference there?
I think it's when I left the RCS, I noticed the biggest difference because I stopped doing so much. I stopped doing the long days, and I stopped doing, because we were dance training like 5 times a week. Like we were always moving. We kind of just got accustomed to 14-hour training days are normal to do all this stuff in. So then I graduated and again kind of fell away from the gym, and I was still trying to tour and sing and do all this. Like it became a lot harder, and I didn't help myself either because, you know, if you're doing late nights, then you just get home and you're like, I don't want to make it, and I'll just order a takeout.
Yeah.
And you're not helping yourself in any way because you're not fueling yourself with things your body can process easily. So you're feeling it the next day, you're still feeling sluggish, and then you're like, oh my goodness, I need to now drive to this place and do a show here tonight. And then you start not enjoying your job because you're tired and you're getting burnt out, and it's purely because you're not looking after yourself. And I'm like, hang on, I should be so happy I'm getting paid to do what I love, and I'm actually sometimes dreading to show up to a gig.
Yeah.
Like that's not okay. That's not you. You need to go sort your stuff.
Yeah. I think it can sometimes be a bit of an endless cycle, isn't it? Especially when you're getting home at like, you know, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning and you're hungry, but you haven't exactly like I mean, you get sometimes good food at gigs, but like it's, I mean, usually like a pizza or like, you know, a takeaway or something. And then, you know, it's not like they'll ask you, where would you like me to put your chicken breast and salad or whatever? Or like, here's some roast potatoes and asparagus for you. You know, it's like, I think it's not, if you don't prepare for it, it can be like a rather unhealthy lifestyle of just, you know, grabbing stuff here and there when you're especially on the road. But I think it's when you're, I mean, you were saying before as well, especially with singers and things, you start this journey in order to like have a physical goal.
Yeah.
And I know obviously some people, and especially singers, they start because they, you know, they just want to get fitter. I know I have friends of mine, they're like, oh, you know, I just want to get fitter. But what do you reckon are some of the major pitfalls that you experience with your clients when they're starting their fitness journey?
I think people really overestimate what they can achieve in a month and very much underestimate what can be achieved in a year. So you know, to change your body, it naturally takes time, and it's more you're changing your behaviors and your lifestyle.
Yeah.
And you need to learn to work with that and not against it. Yes, there'll be some compromise, but you shouldn't be completely having to work your whole day in life around trying to fit into this regime that you've been told to do. So I think it's, you know, not trying to fit into what someone else has done, because that's their life and they have their own life, their own responsibilities, their own work, their own everything else. They don't have the same schedule as you. And then also just realizing that it's not, you know, you don't have to go 110%. You don't have to do 5-6 training sessions a week and be bang on your calories straight away. That all takes time to adjust. And
Yeah.
again, I'd rather you get in 3 really solid, awesome sessions that you're enjoying rather than 5 sessions that are half-arsed and you're dreading them.
Yeah.
And then you just don't want to do them again the next week. And then again, just that education around food. Like some people just, the amount of times I need to encourage folk to eat more, it's unreal. I'm like looking at their calories. I'm like, you're still only eating 1,200 calories a day. I've told you to eat far more than that. And it's just, they don't believe me that they'll lose weight eating more food.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that's why I sometimes will get people to track their food before they come to me to show roughly what they're already eating.
Oh, yeah.
Some people lie because I look at them, I'm like, if you were eating that, you wouldn't be where you are just now. So, you know, but other people who have done that, they're like, oh, I'm actually consuming a lot more than I thought. But it's not about then consuming less food. It's just switching for better options
Yeah.
that are lower in calorie, but you're still getting the volume. So I think it's, you know, not making sure you're listening to the nutritional advice you're getting. Because I think, you know, as we know, the same with singing, there's so much misinformation out there on the internet. And there's so many people on TikTok that are like, hey, tie this belt around your waist and you're going to have a 6-pack in 2 weeks. And then when you don't, you're like, oh, I'm a failure. There's something wrong with me. I failed. I'll never be able to have a slim stomach that I want because this, you know, the TikTok video didn't work for me. Or, hey, you drink this lemon water every morning and you'll drop 5 pounds. And it's like, no, because again, it's just wrong. It's wrong. So I think most of the time, the first few weeks of me working with clients is trying to convince them that I'm correct and they've come to me for a reason. So to trust, and you know, just give me a month. And if you still think I'm talking absolutely craziness and nothing's happening, that's cool. You can leave. No one's ever left because, well, I mean, after they've hit the goals, of course. But no, everyone's realized that, you know, it's not an all or nothing mentality. It's not that you have to put your life on hold while you do this. It's actually finding something that you can then continue for the rest of your life, and you're just adjusting. Like, don't be like me and train for ages, get good results, and then never train again because you're like, oh, I've got the body now. Like, you know, I say this quite often, and I know it seems mad, but I think we forget we didn't used to be able to just like go buy food from shops. You'd have to go out into the woods and catch your food. So that required exertion, that required running. You have to physically do it, otherwise you wouldn't eat. So we naturally were exercising and then we were eating. Whereas now you can sit on the couch all day and order everything to your door if you wanted to. So you do a total of 40 steps in a day because you're walking to the door and back, and you're getting all your food. So it's like, I understand that exercise can feel like another hour out your day, but it's something you need to make time for, because just, if do you want to live a long life, if you have kids or want to have kids, do you want to see them grown up? Do you want to be there for them and be as fit and healthy as you can, and not be dependent on them when you're older because you never looked after yourself? And even if that's not the case, just like, I kind of hate this quote. I see it online all the time, but it's always like, the effort it is to work out is a much better option than the effort it is to live out of shape. And although I feel like that's not the best way to say it, there is some truth in that. Like, I've got a client just now who's simply just wanting to be able to go to Australia and be able to sit in the airplane comfortably, and then be able to go on roller coaster rides with her nephew. And I'm like, that's something she wouldn't have been able to do a few years ago.
Yeah.
Which is, it's just like, that's how debilitating it can be to not be in shape. And it's that in shape phrase as well. I hate. What shape? What is that shape? Everyone says this. I want to be in shape. Where we like a triangle, a cuboid, or are you more of a hexagon girl?
I think that's why I've really decided to I really like Instagram in that way. And because it's like shown me a whole bunch of other people that are in shape, just basically really fit women that don't necessarily look like it in the traditional sense. They don't look like bodybuilders, because I think a lot of us have in our mind, like, in shape is a bodybuilder, and everything else is just like, oh, are you sure you work out? And, especially when you see things like, I follow this really fantastic women's rugby player, and she's like, even like the New Zealand women's rugby team, like, those women are strong, they are fit as fuck, and they can run really far for a long period of time, and also lift really heavy and all this stuff, but they don't necessarily look like the bodybuilder, and they don't look like the Spartan and things like that. So I think it's about changing the way we sort of view what is even in shape, what is fit, what is that. I know my CrossFit trainer always used to say fitness for him was not just like lifting really heavy weights, but fitness was for him also being able to run to the bus, and fitness for him was being able to move his couch without getting a strained back, and to haul the dog food down to the basement without, that was fitness for him. And it was also about doing a pull-up, but it was also about functional, like just being able to be in your life without necessarily going, oh my God, my back,
easier,
Yeah.
The amount of times my clients will be like, Lyndsey, I just walked up the stairs in my shopping. I'm not out of breath. This is amazing. And I'm like, there you go. Life's getting easier. And I think, I have some friends that you'd look at, like, I once actually had to give a client in the gym in trouble because I don't have her anymore. She's the only client I've ever been like, I don't think this is working. Because she was basically saying about one of the PTs being like, oh, she's a PT. And I was like, that woman, just this week, she's a power lifter, and she's just set the world record in her weight category for her squat. And she got a total of like, I think she squatted 230, benched 105, and deadlifted 240. Her overall total was nearly 600 kilo in 3 lifts. Like, she is incredible, but she's not ripped and got a 6-pack, so she's not fit. Like, we have so been shown by the media being like, this is what it looks like. A few years ago it was being all heroin chic, and we're all looking like size zeros in the catwalk, and we all want to see all their bones on show. And now it's become more, oh no, if you don't have curves, then everyone wants curves now and wants to have a big bum and big all this. It's just like, no, what do you want? What do you like? What's gonna make you feel confident? And you don't have to look like any of these things you're seeing online. You just have to be comfortable with you and have, as you're saying, a fitness level that just makes life enjoyable.
Oh, I was excited actually this week because obviously, I've been the difference between a year of watering my garden, and I just noticed the difference of filling up two water cans. And the difference, like last year I was like, and like my shoulders, and then like this year I'm like, oh yeah, that's easy. Like, I just thought to myself, even this simple act of just like yanking 2 ginormous water cans out of the water at the same time, like before I would have to do one at a time. So like to do that is like, I'm super happy about that. I don't necessarily have to bench press my husband or whatever, but I would really like to just be, more functional in terms of, what I'm doing around the house and kind of feel like I can, you know, lug that sack of potting mix around and not have to ask anyone about it.
Yeah.
That was a whole bunch of things all at once. That's very cool. I love it. I'm trying to like figure out where was my question in that.
Where do we go? What are we talking about? That's what happens when you talk to me. I'm just like, I can talk for Scotland. So be your longest podcast ever, 5 hours with Lyndsey and Zoe chatting all the stuff. Listen to it on ×3. Maybe not. I talk quite fast.
I don't think I could handle on ×3, but I just love it though, because I think, you know, that just this idea of not necessarily having to look like a Spartan, or like not necessarily looking like a Spartan when you do start working out. I know that's personally, like, a lot of my friends say, oh, Zoe, you know, but I don't want to look muscly or whatever. I don't want to look like that. So maybe some singers don't necessarily want to look super muscly or anything like that. But what would you recommend to them to just do as like, just to sort of like hold their fitness? Do you have anything that you would recommend for them, for people? Is it about finding someone like you and having it like completely personalized? Or is it about just should I be doing yoga? Like what would be like a good mixture for a singer to do who's, you know, they're busy, they're practicing and all that sort of stuff? What do you reckon?
I think, it still comes down to, if we're just thinking of an average singer and what you need, you just need a general well-being and a general level of stamina and some fitness. So it's still just finding what you enjoy doing in that.
Yeah.
Yoga and Pilates are amazing. If that's something you enjoy and it's obviously great for your body weight strength. Like, people really underestimate how hard it is to hold your own body and move through all these positions.
Oh, it's really fucking hard.
It's really tricky, and you can always progress it. It's not like you just have to, you know, you go beginners, intermediate, advanced. It can be extremely exerting. So if that's what you love, go for it. If you just love hiking and you love being out in the wilderness and being in nature, like, go find a hill to climb every week and just, you know, potter around the park on the other days. If you do enjoy weights, you know, it is extremely hard to get size. When I first lost weight proper, like maybe during lockdown, the first 6 months, I got really, really slim, but all I was doing was weights. And I look back in videos now and I'm like, I was tiny. I could shift a lot of weight, but I was like, I'm just like a very, very, very small human. And I've spent a whole year and a half of building size and building power, because that's what I need for the competitions I'm wanting to do. I need power and size. That's another one. See, functional fitness competitions. You'll look around the room, and if you were to say, right, my money's on them to win, if you look for the person who's really lean and abs and stuff. But it's always the athletes who are in larger bodies, who have the power and the strength behind them, but they've still got incredible stamina. They can go really, really crazy on the rower for like 30 seconds max effort, jump off, let their partner do their 30 seconds. They recover in that time, and then they jump back on. So they've got really fast active recovery, which shows their stamina and their cardio is super high, but they've still got the power and the mass behind them to move it. And they're the ones that win. I mean, you look at, I've been watching the CrossFit games, and again, all those athletes, I'm like, oh my goodness, like they're large gals. They've got a lot of size on them. But to get to that size, you need to eat a lot, and you need to train a lot and very heavy. Yeah. If you just want generally to be a bit stronger, but to not look like really, really muscular, you know, just make sure you're in tune with your nutrition. Do some research or find a coach that you align with. Do your research with coaches. You know, I spent many years with people who I just didn't really get what I wanted. And it was finally maybe the 5th PT I found that I was like, you've made everything make sense to me, and that's great. So it's the same as anything. You need to do your research to find the right person. But so you could do that to get your nutrition, or there is, if you can, again, find the right people on Instagram and ask them questions. Like, people ask me I'll always be happy to have a chat. Obviously, it gets to a stage where you're like, right, would need to take you on to actually give you more solidified advice. But
Lyndsey, can you give me a full workout program as well as calculate my calories for me?
Sure, no worries. So, you know, again, it was something I did. I did a big purge on my Instagram because there was things I was watching and consuming that were making me think more negatively. And I'm like, I'm choosing to follow this. Unfollow it. It's not doing me any good. So, finding nutrition advice that you believe in, and then weights wise, again, just finding a program that you enjoy, but it's all to do with how much you lift in the rep ranges.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's just a bit of knowledge behind that and what areas to target and how to do it. But you won't get big and bulky and hugely muscular unless you're following a very particular program.
I know, it's
Um,
really difficult.
yeah.
So many people have like literally have told me, like, so many of my friends like, but Zoe, I just don't want to get muscly. And I'm just like, well, I really fucking want to get muscly. Do you know how hard I work? You know how hard this is to build
Yeah.
muscle? I was like, it's so incredibly hard. If you start working out with your 3 days a week or whatever, like if you start just,
You're gonna be okay.
you are gonna be fine. Like, but what you will end up gaining is like, I don't have any back pain. I don't have any shoulder pain anymore. I don't have any, I don't have issues. At the start of COVID, I was in so much back pain from sitting all day because I'm usually like here and there and going to this job, and like I was always like I would sit in my car for like hours at a time and then like be walking everywhere as well. Or in London, like I was walking everywhere and I was
Wearing a big backpack as well.
yeah,
and
exactly. And
carrying
so
stuff.
wasn't necessarily like I was always like I had like a wheelie bag. I was like a real dick, but I just like with my wheelie bag everywhere. But not having that pain anymore that like is just sort of comes from getting older and from the day-to-day stuff that we do, because our jobs require us to hold particular positions for a longer period of time. And for me, it was just all about releasing that pain, which in turn really helped my singing because it got rid of all of the like quite a few sort of like chronic tension disorders that I'd had. But what it really came down to was I was, because of my job, holding my body and moving it in a way that wasn't necessarily helpful. And I didn't get that like range of movement that I needed. And therefore, that's what working out and like lifting weights has really given me. I mean, I wish it would also, which it will come down to when I end up doing my bulk, but then, but it give me the muscles and stuff like that and start to build it in that way. But I think it's a huge misconception that you just like pick up a weight and you're just going to be like, poof, I think.
I'm a power man. Yeah. I mean, I've done nothing but eat for about 9 months, and I was like, oh yeah, I've got some good size, and then I walk into a room and I'm like, oh, okay, like still not the biggest, right? Okay, cool. So it's extremely hard to do that. But as you're saying, like, I will always persuade people to at least try resistance training because the benefits you get from it are just it's too many. It's even lifting weights will mean your bones stay stronger, so you're less likely to be crippled when you're older. It's just stuff like that. It's like, that's mad. Just by lifting some weights, like 3-4 times a week. And also, if it's something that you're starting with, doing cardio based workouts is a lot on your heart and it's a lot for your stamina if you're someone that's not got a high level of fitness yet. Whereas pretty much anyone can go in and do an hour worth of weights because it's not constant work for that full hour. You're doing a bit, you're having a rest. You're doing a bit, you're having a rest. Move on to somewhere else. Doing a bit, having a rest. So it's actually manageable for anyone to do. I've had clients come in who were like very large humans, and I've still managed to get them through their first ever hour-long session without them being like, I am dead. They're still walking out and being like, oh my God, that felt amazing. I can't wait to come back. Like, that's great. And that's the big thing we get from training as well. It's those endorphin boosts. And if you're as you've said as well, like the creative spark, when your brain's totally focused on something else and your body's focused on something else, your brain kind of floats away. And then, so not only are you giving yourself time to think and go through thoughts, once you finish that workout, you're like, damn, that was hard. And I didn't have to do that. And I did. And I'm really proud of myself. And oh my God, I feel amazing. And you're on this natural high. So then you're moving forward in your day already feeling accomplished and great about yourself. So you're just setting yourself up to have a great day. Or have a more positive day than you would if you just lay in bed for an extra hour and just been like, I'll start tomorrow. But the resistance training does just give so many benefits out with things. Cardio is great to add in and do little bits of, but it's not something everyone has to do. and
Mm-hmm.
it is just more, it's far more strenuous, and I think that's what puts a lot of people off, is starting, just thinking, I mean, starting anything's going to be hard. You're learning a new skill. You can't expect to be good at it. It's like coming into your first singing lesson and thinking you're going to be hitting all those top notes with a full belt, mixed twang, and like nailing it every time and never failing it. It's not going to happen. So if you go into the weight section and think you're going to be absolutely amazing at everything and know how everything feels, and it feels all totally normal and great the first time, it's not. It's just
Mm-hmm.
having that patience with yourself and understanding its consistency that's going to get you there.
Mm-hmm.
And also just reminding yourself why you're doing it. Why are you actually doing this? What does it mean to you? And how's it going to help you in what you want to do in your life? Is it going to positively impact you? Yes, amazing. Is it going to be, you need to make some compromises and carve out some time and, put a bit of effort in? Yeah. But is it worth it? Yeah. So it's the same as anything. And before you know it, it becomes like, you get up in the morning and you brush your teeth. And then you go, it's just something that naturally becomes a non-negotiable for you. That it's
Yeah.
just like, I get up and I'll go do some training, or after work, I'll go release the tension of work and I'll go train.
I think fitness, and I often, I don't know whether my students get like really just sick of me explaining like the analogies between fitness and singing, because I feel like there's so one. I mean, I really feel they're not one and the same, but they are very, very similar in the way that, like if you want to improve your fitness, it is about basically finding something you love and finding a routine that you love and kind of making it a non-negotiable in your diary. And it's the same goes for your singing. And it's a practice that you have to keep on doing. It's the same for your singing. It's something that you have to keep trying to go higher, reach harder, lift heavier weights, run further, do a little bit more every week, trying to push yourself a little bit. It's the same as singing. I'm always talking about, increasing your ranges. And as you were just saying about your competitions have become like your goal thing, I say the same thing to my singers. I'm like, okay, right, when's your next open mic night going to be? When is your, that's why I always organize student concerts for students. And we're just doing a project in July about recording music videos for everybody. And,
Yes.
and I really feel like I bit off more than I can chew there. We did it last year as well, but I've got like everyone, I was like, no, we're not just going to do one. We're going to do like 3. I was like, how many hours are we going to be editing, Zoe? But, to have something, I think and as you're saying about the, to why you want to start the fitness journey, really having a goal in mind of saying, okay, well, what I even want out of this? What can I realistically get out of, achieve within the time? If you're really confused about it, if you're just like, what the fuck should I do? I've got absolutely no idea. I've tried A, B, and C, and I'm not getting anywhere. Like, is the entire reason why I was searching for a PT. And, until I found you, I'd been through, I think 3, and it's about finding someone that really works with you and also aligns with your goals and aligns with your, your way of thinking. But get help for it. I say that as well to singers, if you're having trouble with your singing, or you're not like reaching the notes you want to reach, or you're not feeling safe and secure, then go and search it, go and seek that help and that encouragement. Because when you realize actually that a trainer or a teacher can also just help you reach your full potential, it's what we're here for. It's not like we don't do the work for you.
Yeah.
we help you to go, oh, okay, well, you do this, and if you do this, and if you do this,
Here's
it just
all
makes
the
the whole,
tools.
yeah.
This is your tool belt. I'm going to top them up for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll check in with you each week, and we'll keep adding some more in. We'll adjust stuff. Like that's what they're there for. And with anything in life, if you want to get better at something, go to an expert and learn.
Yeah.
But I think it's less obvious to do that when it's things like singing or things like fitness, because you just feel like it's just something you don't always ask for help with. I've got a PT, I've got a coach. Because I look after all my clients, and it's really easy to go, oh, I've got all this on today, I need to look after them. And the first thing that always goes is myself, because that's the type of person I am. And then I realized, hang on, that's not okay. I can't keep not doing my training, not doing me, because I'm looking after others.
Yeah.
I'll make sure someone's forcing me to look after myself at the same time, and having that accountability.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a nice wee circle.
I think that's awesome. And I think, singers as well, I think, and performers, especially, we have the singing teacher, we have the dance teacher, we go to the acting teacher. So why on earth wouldn't we feel okay with going to a PT as well, or going to, a nutritionist or someone to help us out to reach the goals that we're wanting to achieve? I think, I think a lot of the time there's quite a lot of stigma attached sometimes with like getting help, especially if it's, um, not a singing teacher, or like if it is a PT, sort of, I think people have sort of made comments, especially to me, about, oh, well, why can't you just do it yourself, or like just find one online? And as you're saying, it's not necessarily, it's not about paying for a program, or about, I mean, it is as well, because you
Yeah.
have changed, changed things for me depending on where I've been and stuff like that. And, going on holiday and changing the plan around. So, but it is also about the accountability and also the knowledge that you've got as well. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, Lyndsey, I know that your books, your books are full at the moment, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But have you got any other way, like, that people can contact you if they've got any questions? But also, I know that you've got a fantastic group of coaches as well at the gym, that
Yeah.
probably maybe one or two have a couple of open slots if anyone wants to get in touch.
So my DMs are always open. I'm always up for helping folks. So you can drop me a message,
Cool.
Lyndsey Knox Fitness on Instagram. I'm sure there'll be a wee thing in here to say that anyways.
Yeah, I'll put all of the information in the show notes about how people can get in touch with you and if they've got any questions. But I think as well, just about, if they've got any recommendations. I think sometimes finding a personal trainer can be quite a challenging thing. And I know that, as I say, I went through a couple that really didn't align with my goals. But I think it's all, as you say, if someone can get in touch and say,
Yeah, definitely. Because I've had a few inquiries recently. It's been really weird when someone's left me recently, either that day or the next day, someone's messaged to inquire about that slot that they obviously didn't know was there. I'm like, this is bizarre, like
That's
voodoo
awesome.
stuff, man. I'm like, what's going on? So always message. You never know who's deciding to leave and who's staying. But also, I do know a lot of coaches, and there's a handful of people I would trust to pass on to. I'll always get a kind of understanding of what you need and what you want, and I'll be like, right, I think you'd be really good with my friend X, Y, or Z, and can pass on information to start coaching with them.